Welcome back. Today is day 1 of our angle relations unit. Today we'll be covering complementary and supplementary angles. Hope you enjoy the video. And today we're going to need to know two terms. One of them is complementary angles, the other one is supplementary angles. So let's go ahead and read this together. Complementary angles, two angles. I'm just going to stop right there. So that means we're going to have how many angles? Two angles. We have to have two angles. Two angles are complementary if the sum, that's an addition problem. So two angles are complementary if they add up to, and it says is 90 degrees. So if the equals 90. So again, one way to think about this is angle 1. There's going to be one angle. There's going to be another angle. And then the sum of those two angles has to equal 90 degrees. Pretty simple. Nothing really big going on here. And if I was looking at a picture, I could draw, a lot of students like to draw this like a 45-degree angle. So I don't know if that's exactly 45, but that looks pretty close right there. That's pretty solid. So I'm going to draw two 45s, and guess what? These are complementary angles because they are going to add up to 90 degrees. All right, perfect. So let me see. But there's a second way. A lot of times we see these and we see them like this. We see a 90-degree angle already created, and then these two are going to be created like as a piece. So I'm going to draw a small little piece like this. So we have a little ray that divides this. And let's say this is, I don't know, it looks like it might be 10 degrees. So this angle is 10 degrees, and this one would be 80 degrees. So those two angles, the red one and the, well, they're both, the 10-degree angle and the 80-degree angle are complementary also because they have a sum of 90 degrees, okay? So that's basically what we're talking about. That's what we're doing because, again, we see 80 plus 10 is 90 degrees. The second term is very similar to that one. We, again, will have to have two angles, so there better be two angles. And they are supplementary if they're sum. So again, they have to add up to 180 degrees. So this time it's going to be the same thing, but supplementary means that these will add up angle 1 plus angle 2. These two angles need to add up to 180 degrees. Beautiful. Okay, so that's it. Complementary is they add up to 90. Supplementary is they add up to 180. And if we're drawing this one, this is going to be a little bit more challenging. So a lot of times students like to do this. They like to say, okay, well, we know 90 plus 90. So two 90s together, so two 90-degree angles will add up to 180. Those will equal 180. So a lot of students like to do that one. Or we can, instead of doing two 90-degree angles, we can draw like, let me draw a straight line. Because if we connect to that, if we made a straight line, and remember, if I was to measure a straight angle here, doesn't that remind us of our circle? So that's like half of a circle or a semicircle. So that's 180 degrees. And now we can do kind of the same thing we've been doing is we cut it into two angles. So we're going to take this and make it into two angles. And let's say this angle is, I don't know, it looks like maybe 30 degrees. So that angle has a measure of 30 degrees. Then the angle next to that is going to have to be 150 degrees because 30 plus 150 is going to be 180. So again, these are supplementary. And the second example is an example of adjacent angles. So angles that share a vertex and a side. All right, so we're going to use those two ideas, complementary angles and supplementary angles, for the rest of this lesson. And let's see if we understand what we just learned. Name a pair, so name. So now we're going to have to use some, this is a nice little review of naming. So we're going to name a pair of complementary angles. And what do we say those were? Those are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. And then a pair of supplementary angles. So that means these ones are going to be 180. Okay, so we have to name two pairs. So let's do this first problem. So this first one, I'm going to go C for complementary. Now complementary means that we're going to have to add up to 90. So I see right here that this angle and this angle here add up to 90 degrees. So I'm just going to say angle STR and angle VWU. So nice little review of naming our angles. those are both complementary angles. They're both going to add up to 90. So if I wanted to write it out, these will add up to 90 degrees. And we already see that, 160, 130. The other one that we're going to do now is supplementary. So supplementary angles are the ones that add up to 180. So I see 150 here, and I see the 30 over here. So I know that those two are going to have to add up to 180. So again, naming these, this will be angle QTS will work. Q, then T, then S, plus my other angle is going to be the same one, angle VWU. And these are 180. So there we go. Nice and simple, just a little review of naming angles. But the second one's a little bit more challenging over here. So when I look for this one, the complementary angle. So one thing students say is, well, this angle JLK. So a lot of students say this angle right here is complementary. But remember from our definition, we need two angles, and that's only one angle. So just because it has a 90 doesn't mean that those are you need a pair, you need two. But if we go on the other side of this problem, we know that these are 90 right here, and so that means that these two angles, let's call this angle 1 and angle 2. These angles, angle 1 and angle 2, they have to add up to 90. I don't know what they are, but I do know they add up to 90. So I'm going to write this one in. And so I'm going to say angle GLH plus angle HLJ. And those will equal to 90. All right, perfect. Usually I put measures in right now, but again, I'm just going to kind of rough and quick right now. So I'm not writing the measure in front of this, but usually I would do that. All right, and supplementary. Now this one is really interesting. I like this one. So some people notice the two 90s next to each other, so that they would say, well, angle the two right angles. So angle GLJ plus the measure of, usually I would write the measure of JLK is equal to 180. Okay, so that would be one pair, but there's another pair. So again, this one's some people see these, some people don't. As we start practicing a little bit, let me see if I can erase that. Oh, I erased everything. That's not what I wanted, but let's work with that. Now, what about these two angles? So what about this angle right here? So angle 1, and then this other angle all the way on the other side. So all of this piece right here. So I'll call that angle 2. So we have angle 1 over here, and then we have angle 2 over here. I'll put 2 arcs so that we can see a difference. That's another pair that make 180 degrees. So I can write that angle. Usually I would write it like this. The measure of angle GLH plus the measure of angle HLK is equal to 180 degrees. All right, so perfect. And this is also another pair of supplementary. So there was actually two supplementary pairs in this problem. All right, well done. Let's move on. Do another check for understanding. Angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary. So again, same thing. We know that angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2, I wrote it backwards, is equal to 90 degrees. We know these have to add up to 90, so I can kind of just make like a little plus sign here and a little 90 here and just say 35 plus some number equals 90. What is that, 55? And we're done with this one. That's how simple it is. So these are not too bad. So again, some mental math here. We know if these are complementary, they have to add up to 90 also. So this would have to be 70. Good mental math there. These two have to add up to 90. This is our favorite, the 45, 45. And then the last one, these have to add up to 90. And this one, hopefully you don't miss, it's 1 degree. All right, perfect. Done with this one. The same idea here. This is angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary angles. So we know that these two angles, they are going to angle 1 plus angle 2 are going to have to add up to what? 180. So this is an easy little game here, a little bit harder mental math though. What does angle 2 have to be if those two have to add up to 180? Let's see. 45 would get me 70, the 80, so 145, I believe. Hopefully my mental math is going well. Brain still works a little bit. This is a nice, easy one, 160. 180, so 45 goes to 50 would be 5, and 35, so 135. And the last one, we need to make 180. So if I add 1, that'll be 90. So 91. A little bit of mental math, done. Now you know how to do this one. We know that angle A and angle B are complementary. So again, what does that tell us? That means they have to add up to 90 degrees. So the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B is equal to 90 degrees. Perfect. And the beautiful thing is they want us to find the measure of angle A and B, and we know what those are, so we're going to substitute in right now. So do a little substitution. So I'm going to get 8x plus 100 plus 2x plus 50 is equal to 90. Perfect. If you're not good at solving equations, throw this into GeoGebra and I'll solve it for you in 1 second. But you know what? I'm just going to solve it out because it's not too bad. 8x plus just adding these up right here, that's going to give 10x. And then I'm going to add up these two guys right here. So that'll give me 150 equals 90. I'm going to subtract 150 from both sides. I'm not going to write it because I'm going to run out of room. So hopefully you guys can follow along. So this will be negative 160. So all I did was subtract 150 from both sides. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 10. So this will give me negative 6. And there is my answer for x. But again, when you're doing these problems, you need to go back and check to see, is that what we're solving for? No, we wanted the measure of angle A. So let me just figure out what that is. So the measure of angle A is 8x plus 100, and you just figured out what x was. So now we can do a little substitution and we can figure out what that is. So I'm going to substitute my negative 6 in for x, and that'll give me negative 48 plus 100, which is 52. So guess what we just figured out? The measure of angle A is 52. Well, if we know what A is, we should know what the measure of angle B is. And you can do the same thing, you can plug back in, or we can just figure out just by our problem here. So if that's 52, then we know that this one must be what? 38 degrees. So we got 38 for this one, and 52, because what? A plus B need to add up to 1 or add up to 90. Easy peasy, like these problems. The next problem is not any harder, it's just different. So these are supplementary, which means that this time the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B, this time we'll have a sum of 180. And then the same process. So it's the same algebra after that. So we're going to get 2x subtract 20 plus 3x plus 5. And then combine like terms. I'm going to start skipping steps now because it's the second time. We should be better at this. Most of you, this won't be a problem. 5x, add the 15 to both sides, so that's 195. Mental math, how many times does 5 go into there? I believe it is 39 times. Because 5 times 40 would be 200, so 5 times 39 would be 195. That makes sense, perfect. All right, and now we can find out what is the measure of angle A. So the measure of angle A is 2x subtract 20. Let me do a little substitution here. 2 times something minus 20. So that is, we're going to throw a 39 in there. Ooh, I'm going to have to do a little bit of calculator work here. 60 plus 18, 78, subtract 20. Perfect. Which is 58. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes along the way. I think I'm good. I am moving kind of quickly on this. And guess what? The measure of angle B, since these are supplementary, these need to add up to 180. So I know this one has to be 122. Game over. All right, I hope this helps you with understanding complementary and supplementary angles.